Hi everyone and welcome to Real Life Talks. I'm your host Yvonne Heath, author of the book Love Your Life to Death and founder of the I Just Showed Up movement. So joining me today are two very special guests. What a treat. I'll start with you, which I was going to say Taxi brought Chris, but I'm here with Chris Piva. Hello Chris, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am so great, thank you. And such a nice surprise. I was very excited that you were coming onto the show, but what a bonus to meet Taxi. Hello Taxi, how are you? Taxi did not want to not be on the show, so there you go. Yes, this is Taxi. Chris is service dog, and I'm so delighted that you're both here. And we have so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start, but I'm going to go back to saying that I've had your wife, Mindy, the lovely Mindy Piva, on the show a couple years ago. And just recently, in the last couple months, I had Natalie Harris on the show. And these are two women that are
amazing people.
Amazing people. And on both of those shows, I just watched them both. We talked about you on both of the shows. So it's so great to have you here to talk about your journey. I'm very passionate about ending stigma, having conversations about mental wellness. And one of those things that we need to talk about more and more and prevent and empower people is post-traumatic stress disorder, injury, moral injury, and
post-traumatic growth is the best part.
Yes, that's true. Talking about post-traumatic growth. So just want to hear a little bit about your journey, and then we'll talk about the good stuff.
Crazy. Okay, so this is like full circle.
Yes.
I was a paramedic in Muskoka from 2002 till 2012. Mm-hmm. And Mindy and I were in Centennial College. That's where we met in the paramedic program. And we met you guys.
Yes.
Like I've been to your stag and doe and slept over at your house and hung with your kids and worked with your husband. So
I know. And that's years and years. I have a picture of you with the twins when they're 6 months old and they're 14 and a half. So yes, we've known each other for many, many years.
Amazing. So
and we loved you, and we still do, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, and you still love the new me and I still love the new you.
Exactly. It's so wonderful. Yeah. So paramedic journey.
Yeah, so working in Muskoka brought a lot of challenges. And Mindy in 2008 was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
After a really bad call. And I watched her kind of work through it, and I didn't understand it. And I always say at the groups that we run, Wings of Change, that trying to describe it when you're going through it is like trying to describe what the color of 9 smells like.
Oh, that's such a great
to it.
You just can't.
Yeah, mm-hmm. So there's really no words to like explain it other than just being supportive of your spouse when they're going through it, and come at them with curiosity rather than judgment. So not trying to understand it, just being supportive is really all they need.
And believing them.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, man, this sucks. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here with you.
Yes, and it's a dark time.
Yeah.
And just to interject, I was a nurse, I believe I was in Emerge at the time, and I remember that call with Mindy. I remember that day like it was yesterday. And we don't know about it, and we didn't know what to do, and you don't know how to support people. And I am so glad that that is changing, right? That is changing because we're having conversations. None of us knew what to do or say, and now we can do better, right?
Always, yeah.
Always.
Yeah, it's all about awareness.
Absolutely. So that call with Mindy was 2008?
Yeah.
Yes, and so you tried to be supportive and help her navigate.
I was actually, when she went on that call, I was working in Huntsville with Jordy.
Oh my goodness.
And then she called me that night. So it might jog his memory too. Yeah,
yes.
So helping Mindy through that.
Yes.
And then we raised our son between 2008 and 2012, and then that's when I got my diagnosis. So
right.
Yeah, working with my partner at the time, he's still off work on WSIB working through his stuff. And he's doing amazing now, but it takes a lot of hard work and dedication to be a better version of yourself. Like, you got to really work hard.
Absolutely. So 4 years later,
I get diagnosed.
And I'm sure not in a million years you would have seen that coming.
Well, watching Mindy go through it, I was like, well, it can't happen to me. I'm like, I don't know, whatever. It was a perfect storm. All the stars aligned, whatever you want to say. And it happened to her, and I was in denial for those 4 years until I realized, oh wow, this job's like taking the life out of me, and like, why am I exposing myself to such horrific things when I know that my body doesn't want it.
Right.
So I'm just gonna lay her down.
There you
Just
go.
gonna stretch
Thank you,
out.
Taxi.
See you later.
I know you won't be far. So, and it's so interesting as we learn more and talk about this more. And I've said this to people, why would we be okay with what we see? I mean, these horrific things and pain and suffering and trauma. Okay, we'll just let Taxi fluff up the jacket to sit on. But what we don't realize is we are human first, and it is going to take its toll unless we learn to take better care of ourselves and each other and understand what that can be like for
100%.
people, even when we don't understand, though.
Yeah.
To be supportive and to show up. Right? So you mentioned Wings of Change, and I know that I want to talk about it because it's going to be the end of the show, and we'll say, oh my goodness, we didn't talk about it. But I just had a little chat with Natalie Harris, who is the founder.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
So Natalie, she is so amazing, and she wrote her book. She's written, more than one book about her journey with PTSD and mental health issues and mental illness, and she's very open and she wants to help create change. And she said when she was at a rehabilitation, one of the things that really helped her was peer support.
Yeah.
And when she left, she didn't have that, and so she founded Wings of Change. So I let Natalie know that you were going to be on the show, and I said, do you have anything you'd like to say about Chris? And may I read?
Yeah,
See, I'm a little bit sneaky.
This is too funny.
So she said, I met Chris at a Wings of Change meeting, and I was instantly impressed and grateful for his shares. He was capturing the attention of others. He was giving them hope for the first time in a long time. I was honored to watch Chris heal and grow through Wings of Change. And when I needed someone to step up to the plate and facilitate the Barrie meetings for me, I had no doubt in my mind that I was going to ask Chris. He said yes, and that chapter has flourished. But he didn't stop there. He started a chapter in Aurelia and Bracebridge. He brings hope and love to everyone he meets. And I'm truly blessed to call him one of my best friends.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Isn't that so wonderful? Could you ever have imagined at that dark time that you would come to this?
Well, Mindy and I, I still remember that night. Like, we pulled up in the parking lot, and it took me a year to get to that point where I was like, okay, I think I can do this. Mm-hmm. And when we left our car, we said, all right, you ready to make some friends? And we walked in there, and Natalie was like, big hug, hey, come on in, make yourself at home. And there's no real judgment or expectation. It's just a room of people with understanding that have the same kind of story.
Right.
And we've all seen trauma, and nobody has to share about their trauma. It's just understood. If you're sitting in that chair,
You've
you're
been
there
through
for
something.
a reason. Yeah.
And you need, So just take us through. So Wings of Change is what?
It's a safe environment. Wherever you go for these meetings, there's a trained facilitator that's in the know and that most likely has walked that path already or is still kind of in the middle. Mm-hmm. And whether it's like a diagnosis of PTSD or like anything really, but it's from that first responder world, so community heroes. Mm-hmm. And it's incredible sitting in a room with even one person, like they say face to face, that's still peer support if you go for coffee.
Yes.
But these meetings are 10 to 12 people, and they're all at different phases of awareness or of growth. Mm-hmm. And just having people kind of just talk about how they've gotten through it and what works for them, whether it's sleep, whether it's nutrition, whether it's aggression, whether it's anxiety, there's a whole ton of stuff that we can talk about.
Sure.
That's all related to mental health and the workplace and what you bring home.
Yes. And so when you say it's for first responders, but I know that nurses or anybody who is affected by anything traumatic or they're struggling are welcome.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can share, you can just listen, but it's peer support. We've all been through something, and they get out of it what they need, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's incredible. And then the people that I've met through these groups, they meet me and my wife on a different level. Mm-hmm. There's no small talk anymore. There's no shallow conversation, and there's no talking about other people.
Right.
Because that doesn't do anything for you. That doesn't bring you joy. It just is full of negativity, and you don't need to do that.
Right.
So like going and being understood in a safe place is like, it builds connection. And
Yes, and it's solution driven, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And when you share and say, okay, well, this worked for me, it might be, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Okay, because some things are going to resonate, some aren't, and that's okay too. But that commonality of we've been through something, I think it is one of the greatest ways to heal that there is.
yeah, strength in community.
Strength in community. So what has the peer support done for you and Mindy?
Well, I wrote, I'm grateful. That was like my biggest word here on this page. So
Yes.
I'm grateful for everything that I have right now. I'm just grateful that I'm able to sit here. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for you guys. And like my family, like everything. If you practice that, your brain actually is like wired to not be able to be negative. If you're always practicing gratitude, like it's basically like water off a duck's back with negativity. And it's incredible. Like it's a super freeing feeling being able to just be yourself, be true to yourself, and during that self-discovery and growth, that's what life's all about, is like pushing your limits and getting uncomfortable,
Yes.
feeling it. Yeah, I'm really uncomfortable right now, but I know that it's going to be better on the other side. And pushing through that is the hardest part, but it's like the biggest strength it's your biggest strength.
Yes, absolutely. And and you never know what awaits on the other side of grief, or that area of post-traumatic growth, which I want to talk about. But I just want to go back to share whatever you feel comfortable sharing when you were in your darkest time with PTSD. What did that feel like? Because everybody experiences it differently. How was that for you?
So the worst of it came when I had to transition from being a paramedic. Like, you grieve the loss of your job, your identity.
Yes.
Like, that's what
Huge.
you're groomed. It's like, oh man, you're EMS, you're a police, you're fire, you're military.
Yeah.
Like, everybody looks up to you. So all of a sudden,
Absolutely.
your uniform's gone. There's your identity. Oh, I'm no longer working. I'm unemployed, and I'm being funded through WSIB. So it's like, it's not a happy time in your life.
The stigma and self-stigma.
Oh my gosh, yeah, huge.
Right?
Like, we're the hardest on ourselves.
Yes.
So I was honest. I started to struggle. I was going back to Georgian College to do the electrical engineering technician program.
So you were getting retrained for a different, okay.
Yeah. And we got a puppy, and her name was Zoe. And when we were like at the best, I would say, in recovery, like Mindy was doing great. She had an awesome job. Braden was doing well in school. And we had really good communication. And then it's like my cup overflowed again. So like I had to do it all over again. So I already got to the top.
Yeah.
And then it was the stress from school got way too heavy for me. And then our puppy died in our backyard. So it shook me to the ground, like right to the core. And like 3 years later, that was 2015 in April, I'm like becoming the best person. And I've taken that experience where I was like, it drove me to the point of like having suicidal thoughts, like every day, like 5 times a day, they just run through your head, and you're like, oh my God, like.
That's hitting rock bottom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're crying all the time, you have no motivation, you're just, what do I have to live for? And the one thing that pulled me out of it was like going to therapy.
Yes.
So we picked up Taxi, like a week later, like I was just struggling, and I just started going on walks. I'm like, I'm gonna take care of her,
Thank
and
goodness.
I'm gonna be the best dog owner I can. And like slowly the pieces of my puzzle started to come together. And finally, from the psychologist that I see now, she said Zoe's death was like, in a way, the biggest gift to you, because she said it was a fork in the road. She's like, if you continued on that path with school and pressure and everything, she's like, you would have probably got your drinking out of control, and you would have been grumpy and irritable, and your relationship would have fallen apart, and your son would have resented you, and you would have been a grumpy old drunk when you were tired.
Wow.
She said that was the big shift right there. And she said you needed something really huge to knock you off that course. And she's like, Zoe was the biggest gift. And I'm like,
And you certainly wouldn't have seen it as a gift at the time.
No.
Right? And, you know, this is the whole part of my message, is that grief shows no mercy. And here you were trying to put your life back together after this diagnosis. And, you know, that's enough. That's enough to deal with. You know, your wife, she's worked so hard and she's did so well. And then your dog dies. It's like, come on, leave them alone.
Mm-hmm.
They've been through enough. But it doesn't work that way, does it?
If you get stuck there, you're not going to grow.
It doesn't work that way. And grief will be back, right? Something else, because grief is whatever makes your heart ache, divorce, diagnosis, job loss, and all of those things, loss of identity, all of it. And stuff will continue to happen. So if you don't have the tools, lots of tools in your toolbox, taxi, your dog and your family. And I love that you just say, and I see a psychologist.
Yeah.
Well, people, when they think, you know, the whole stigma with therapy, I think everyone should have therapy.
Everyone needs someone to talk to, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've gone for therapy after my divorce, when I was a single parent, when my life was a disaster. When things happen in my family, it's an objective person to hear and perhaps share some skills that you might not have thought of. Where's the stigma in that? I don't even get it. Like, why do we think we need to do it on our own?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
I know it's a loaded question.
I have some stuff written down
Do
on
you
why.
please?
Yeah.
like honestly, I don't get it. Like, why are we so hard on ourselves, right? Well, we've celebrated, I can do this all on my own, I'm very independent.
Yeah.
That's just got to go out the window, doesn't it? I'm all for therapy.
So
let's do it.
She has actually suggested this book. It's called Running on Empty.
Running on Empty, okay.
And I can't remember the author, but I'll tell you later.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. So it's like generations of parents. It
Yes.
was like wartime, post-traumatic stress disorder, alcoholism,
Mm-hmm.
abuse. So they raised a generation of parents that were taught to just meet your basic needs. Food, water,
Okay.
shelter.
Sure.
So love and empathy, all that stuff was something that they weren't able to give. First of all, they weren't taught it from their parents.
They didn't know what
because
they didn't know either.
they were just surviving.
Right? Yep.
And it raised another generation of parents that they definitely raised the bar a little bit with the best they had, with those tools that they were given. And it's all about, so they say it's emotionally inept generations of parents. So it's the inability for you as a parent to get down on your child's level and meet them at that emotional connection.
Right.
Yes, what you're feeling right now is super tough. Yes, it hurts. I'm with you, I support you, and I'm going to help you through this. And then giving them the strategies like, here's your breathing, here's mindfulness, here's exercise, here's healthy nutrition, here's all this stuff. And then you start to develop these kids that are more well-rounded and able to take on the world rather than, you're fine.
Stop
don't worry
crying.
About it. Yeah,
It's
shake it
it's
off.
not
Don't
that
worry
bad.
about it. So I don't hold any anger towards any parents that have those skills.
They didn't know.
They didn't
know any better.
And they couldn't give something that they didn't have to give.
That's right.
And it's just understanding. And as soon as you have that awareness and understanding about other people and all your relationships that you have, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to hold it against them.
Right.
They're just doing the best they can with what they have.
And here we are, now we are being taught this if we're willing to listen, and we can say, so what can we do to change that? What can we do differently? And I love what you just said. Let's get down to their level and say, yeah, this is hard, and give them the tools, not fix it for them. Not fix it for them, right? Create
Help them.
that.
Give them the tools to
Give
get
them
through
the
it.
tools, because we won't always be there to guide them. So and if we commit ourselves to ongoing learning and evolving and making mistakes or saying, oh, wow, didn't handle that very well. Like I said that to my daughter the other day. I said, I was pretty crabby this morning and I'm sorry, you know, I'm not perfect either. I have my days, but if we can commit to growth, post-traumatic growth. So let's talk about, what does that mean? What does that mean to people? So you've been through a trauma, post-traumatic growth.
Yeah, so Mindy described a scale. So it's like a graph. So you're going across the line. Okay, here comes, this is your normal. This is where you've, like, childhood, set your bar. This is normal for me. All of a sudden, post-traumatic stress took me a year to get to that point.
go right
so you're right down to the bottom. You have to
Mm-hmm.
when you left everything that you thought you understood in life. We walked in there and Natalie was like, things like waking up and having a shower and brushing your teeth. Like, why is this hard all of a sudden?
Wow.
Why is communication hard? Because I'm irritable and I'm mad at like
me.
everything. So
Yeah.
all your chemicals are out of whack. Post-traumatic growth is when you hit the bottom and you start to realize this isn't where I want to be. There's more to life than this. And then you start gathering your motivation. It's like a snowball rolling down the hill. And you actually, when you recover, you actually pass your old level of normal. So you rise above.
Which is incredible.
And they, like I say, leveling up.
Yes.
Like awareness to any way that you can improve yourself, whether inward or outward with relationships, do it. Like it's worth it. And don't be comfortable. Like as soon as you're comfortable, that means you're not changing. And these like analogies that we use is like a lobster. Like when they're ready to grow,
Yep.
they drop their shell, their outer exterior, they're super vulnerable, they have to hide, and they have to protect themselves. But
Lobsters
then-
do that? They climb right out of their shell? They get right out of there?
That's what apparently I've heard.
It's a good story. I don't know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they regrow their shell,
Okay.
but you never see them
Right.
because they don't expose themselves. So that's like part of being vulnerable. Is just saying, hey man, like I've been
Yeah.
there. It sucks.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's going to take a lot of work, but you can do it.
Well, and again, look at you and Mindy have stuck together through thick and thin, obviously. You've both been through this. One of you going through this is hard enough. And you have both. You hit bottom and you definitely springboarded long, way above, your old standard. Because here you are being the change you want to see, and being willing to be uncomfortable and speaking. And I know Mindy as well. She's like, I'm not that comfortable with this, but I'm going to do it anyways because it's so important.
Yeah.
Would you ever in a million years have envisioned being that incredible couple that is helping so many other people?
Well, it's finding that gift
Yes.
in the, I don't know, in the manure. Like,
right in the manure.
yeah, there's their gift right
Yes.
there. And now we get to just share that it's possible to not be stuck there.
Yes, and you're creating something incredibly positive from something incredibly hard. But to me, it's just like you're now like a power couple because you can show people, look, even the two of us, a married couple raising our son, we went through this. We both went through it and we're able to support each other. And it is incredible. Seriously,
It's not
Chris,
easy,
it
but
is.
it's worth it. Yeah.
Not easy, but is worth it. And many things that aren't, most things that are worth it are not
They're not
easy.
easy. They
Well,
don't
let's
come
be
easy.
honest, right? So back to Wings of Change. I know that it is across Canada. There's groups.
Yeah,
I know.
They're. I don't actually have an accurate list of where they all are.
I feel
but
like there's 25 cities
Yeah.
across Canada, and there needs to be many more.
Yeah.
Right? Wings of Change, peer support, and they hold meetings. How often do they usually hold? I mean, I know every one of them's different. You facilitate Wings of Change in Bracebridge and Aurelia
And Barrie.
and Barrie. So all three now.
Yeah, so Barrie is on the first and third Wednesday of each month at 6:30
Growth.
CMHA on Ann Street.
Post-traumatic
Okay.
growth.
And then,
So
Aurelia
let's talk
is the
about
third,
what does that mean? What does that mean to
Wednesday
people? So
of
you've been
each
through a
month
trauma.
at the library in Aurelia
post-traumatic
at 1
growth.
o'clock.
Yeah.
So, and then Bracebridge is the second and fourth Wednesdays, 6:30, CMHA building, Manitoba Street, Bracebridge.
Right, and you are at all of these.
Yeah, I drive
You're
my
just all over the place.
$1,000 Subaru with 340,000 kilometers.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I go and I help people. I have friends, like 3 people for sure that I can say have come to me and said, Chris, you actually saved my life.
I mean, how
I'm
does
like,
that
"Hey."
feel? That's extraordinary.
Well, I used to do it as a paramedic. Like I only had a
Yes.
couple saves, but it's the change that you bring. Like it doesn't have to be their heart stopped and now they're saved. Like you can save people in tons of ways.
Well, and their heart is aching and breaking, right? And that's what you give them hope. And oh my goodness, there is hope because you're living it. For one, is you're walking your talk. You're not just saying, hey, try all this stuff. Well, I'm not doing it, but you're walking your talk. And that peer support, I think there should be peer support everywhere in every teachers and educators and
I just spoke
everyone.
to my son's principal and I said, I want to start a peer support group for kids that are getting bullied, that have anxiety, that have fears or phobias.
Oh my goodness.
And he's like, let's do it. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
That is fantastic. Well, because that knowing you're not the only one, and that someone, I also really encourage people and teach people, if you see something, say something, right? And that's like with PTSD, if you, or mental health issue or bullying, if you see someone that you think is in trouble or needs a helping hand, reach out to them or reach out to someone who can help them. Let's be that community, right? Like,
yeah.
People care, but when they don't know what to do, they don't know what to say, they tend to avoid. And I say, just show up, right? Let's step in.
Just listen.
Just listen.
Just nod your head and listen.
You do not need a PhD to love and support. See, Jordy's given us the old, I told you this would be quick.
Well, we'll have to come back again.
I know. So any last, so I wanted everybody to know about Wings of Change. There's a Facebook page, there's a website, they can find out information,
Yeah,
right?
just Google Wings of Change.
Just Google Wings of Change. And I see all your, is there anything on that scribbling that we need to share before we go?
Well, here, I can give you all my quotes.
I'd love to hear your quotes.
I believe in you. Like, that's
Aw.
pretty powerful.
That's huge.
Say that to everybody.
And I believe in you.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
And you've got this.
You've
Like
got this.
support rather than the judgment, which is incredible. Everybody needs to be loved, heard, without judgment. Approach situations with curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
If speaking kindly to plants helps them grow, imagine what speaking kindly to humans can do.
Yes.
So be positive.
Be
and
positive.
Find good people.
Find good people to support you through it all. I love you, Natalie. I love you, Mindy. I love you, and Taxi now. Thank you so much for everything that you are doing, because
Awesome.
you're giving people hope and love and hearing, just listening, and creating a culture of change. And I already told Natalie, I think we all will end up going on the road together. I think this is wonderful, right?
That's cool.
I don't know about your vehicle, but we'll talk about
We'll
that.
get an RV.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks for having me. It was
Thank
amazing.
you. So thanks for joining us today. Real Life Talks is about learning how to just show up for yourself and just show up for others, and sometimes having difficult conversations. So if you want to be empowered and resilient, my call to action, as always, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Bye for now.